Just hit an error. Nope, looks like we are live. Let me just make sure that it's live on the feed. Yes, we are. So welcome everyone to the Bite Back Tour. This is the City of Industry or stop. And we'll do a quick round of introductions. I'll start with myself. My name is Levy Sun, Public Information Officer at the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. I'll just throw it around my screen here. Go ahead, Ali.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ali Gaspar. I'm the outreach assistant here at the district, and I'm also currently in front of the City of Industry City Hall here.
There you go. And then go ahead, Caroline.
My name is Carol Ann, and I am one of the education specialists at our district.
Marco?
Hi, I'm the Vector Control Specialist 3 with the San Gabriel Valley Mosquito and Vector Control District. In my previous role, I was the specialist that oversaw the City of Industry, and right now I'm currently in one of our wash drains that leads into the flood channel system.
All right, and then Pablo?
Hi everyone, my name is Pablo Cabrera and I'm the communications specialist here at the district.
And Aaron? Uh-oh. Aaron, do you...
Oh, I was frozen. Sorry, can you see me now?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erin Johnson, and I'm the outreach manager at the Theodore Payne Foundation for wildflowers and native plants.
All right. So happy to have you here, Erin. And then finally, Jackie.
Hello, good morning. My name is Jackie, and I'm a vector control specialist in the surveillance department.
All right, very cool. So if you're just tuning in, this is the Bite Back Tour in the City of Industry. We have a full slew of guests here. If you're watching live, you're probably on Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook. Feel free to add into the comments any questions or comments you may have, and I'll be sure to monitor that. If you're watching on our website, we have a form right down below here that you can submit a question to. I'll be monitoring any questions you submit on my cell phone, so we'll be able to address anything that comes to mind. So we are actually here in the City of Industry, and I see Marco has a friend that just showed up. There are lots of interesting things happening in the City of Industry. So I think, wasn't there a historical site, I believe, that not a lot of people know about, Pablo?
Yes, it's actually the Workman Temple Family Homestead Museum. I actually discovered it on my tour of the City of Industry. I think like a lot of people think the City of Industry is very industrial, which it is. But it is home to a very well-known landmark, 100-year-old home. It's a very cool place to go visit. So if you're ever in the City of Industry, I highly recommend to go visit the Homestead Museum. It is now back open.
All right, thank you. Well, let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about what bugs the City of Industry. And for many people, that would be the mosquitoes. But before we begin, I do want to say that there's something else that a lot of people don't know about, and that's how vegetation, like things like ivy and dense vegetation, can affect mosquitoes around your home. So stay tuned, because we have Erin, who's joined us today. We'll talk a little bit more about how you can make your home a little bit more bite-free just by revamping your landscape, or just picking out specific types of plants that are not as conducive to mosquitoes around your site. But to get to that point, we need to know the threat. And the threat here is mosquitoes. So first up is really just to know their life cycle. That's the most common foundation that we teach everyone. And a lot of you watching probably already know mosquitoes come from stagnant water. But do you know their life cycle? Pablo here just showed on the screen one portion of the life cycle. We'll start at the top with, well, not that dead adult mosquito there that's on the screen, but when they are alive, when mosquitoes are alive and they're flying around as adults, the female mosquitoes will bite, may bite us, and they'll take the protein from our blood to develop the eggs. And that right there on screen, I believe, is an egg raft, right, Pablo?
Yes, that is a Culex egg raft we have there.
And for you watching, a Culex is a genera or a group of mosquitoes that are common here and native here to Southern California. And once they take the blood from you, they'll use the protein, lay the eggs, and eventually hatch out as larvae. And that's what you see wriggling around in there, looking sort of like tadpoles to many kids. So they'll grow and they'll eat, and they'll eventually turn to pupae, which looks like a shrimp-like character. They'll tumble around really fast. I think I just saw, oh, there's one right there tumbling around.
Tumbling in there.
Yeah, it didn't get the acting contract apparently to stay still. But there you go. We got two pupa right there. If you notice them, they look like little ovals with antennas sticking out of them. So from there, they'll then hatch out as adults. So how long, I'll throw this out to the group, how long do you think it takes then to go from egg to adult? I need a Jeopardy music.
Highly easy. Don't have the Jeopardy music, sadly, but it takes 7 days.
7 days, that's right. So 1 week is all it takes. Pablo, can you show us the egg graft again?
Yes.
If possible. Because I want to point out that that egg graft is very tiny, but it can hold at least 150 eggs in that single raft. So by a week, you may have 150 mosquitoes just from that one egg graft coming out. And many of those could be biting female mosquitoes. So we don't want that to happen. The best way to take care of that is through managing the stagnant water sources. Now, again, we know that you know about water sources, but let's talk about some places that are commonly missed around our home. We can go around the group, but for me, I'll say a very common source that people miss around their home would be a plant saucer. That's just right underneath a plant pot. Any other sources you can think of?
One that I've seen is, like old trash bags or just plastic tarps that you have out in your yard. We use them to cover some of our stuff from the weather, but unfortunately that pools, and especially when it rains, it collects the water and we forget about it or don't see it. And within just a few days, you definitely do see mosquito larvae swimming in there.
Mm-hmm.
So the bottoms of sorry, Ellie.
It's okay, go ahead.
The bottoms of recycling containers, if you've got just an open bin and you're throwing your recycling in there, sometimes the water, if you've left any water in the water bottles, they'll drain out into the bottom of the recycling bin. And so all you see is the recycling and it looks dry, but if you empty it and you look down at the bottom, you may find some larvae growing down there at the bottom.
Yeah, and also I was thinking children's toys or even just like tools that we use around the house. So like, our lawnmowers, our gardening tools, and anything pretty much that we use on a daily basis, it's really easy to forget about them if we don't put them away in a dry place. They'll sit there and the wind will knock them over or something will happen.
Right. And I also want to mention rain barrels too. I can't remember the last time we got significant, like really significant rain. But when we do, we try to always, of course, use that water as best we can for our gardens. But in between rain, which could be months, there could still be a lot of stagnant water at the very bottom of your barrel beneath the spout. So make sure you tilt that whole thing over and rinse it out, wash out and clean out your rain barrels as often as you can, preferably at least once a month at the very, very minimum if there's been no rain events, just to make sure there's no water accumulating on the inside.
Plus, Levy, for those gardeners, as far as saving water, a lot of times you fill up that watering can and you've watered everything, but there's still a little bit of water in the watering can and you don't want to just dump it out. But you should, either that or, just find some place that needs a little extra watering and make sure that watering can is empty, because sometimes we get busy and we leave it sitting there with all good intentions, and then it starts growing mosquitoes.
Now, I'm wondering for you, Marco, because you've been out in the field in many people's properties asking for help, obviously. What are some of the most overlooked, or maybe the oddest, the strangest sources you found on someone's property?
Well, the most strange that I've ever found any breeding in was a bowling ball on a property in El Monte. The finger holes, I just happened to walk up to it just to take a look, and I'd seen some mosquitoes kind of flying around the area. Sure enough, I look inside with my flash and there was some larvae and pupa in there. There was some Aedes mosquito. The other one that I did find was almost like a cooking pan that was inside of a bush that I found in City of Industry that was holding water, and it also was, breeding. So like I said, the smallest amount of water is enough for these mosquitoes just to breed and populate.
That is strange. A pan in a bush. Who knows what they're doing?
Suitcase, I found a suitcase full of water and larvae. That was interesting.
Oh, yeah, I get to go.
Those are some crazy places.
Yeah, I'm always surprised to hear what our field staff find. I've heard of obviously the usual 5-gallon buckets. I've heard of toilets, abandoned toilets in people's yards that will hold a lot of larvae in the toilets. So interesting places. Wherever water will go there. Some of the harder places to get rid of water is an abandoned old tire. So I don't know how many of you have tried to toss out as much water as possible from a tire. You're doing CrossFit practically, tossing end over end and not getting anywhere. So
I know people take chainsaws and cut them in half because it's easier.
Yep, absolutely. Just rip into it so that it doesn't accumulate water, because there's a new type of mosquito that was considered invasive when they entered, called Aedes, Aedes. Many of you watching on this Bite Back tour in the City of Industry will know them as ankle biters or the black and white mosquitoes. These are the same mosquitoes that are responsible for disease outbreaks in throughout the world for Zika, dengue fever, yellow fever, and something called chikungunya. All of these spell bad news for anyone that gets it. And these are the ones that most people are aware of in the City of Industry. So these mosquitoes love those small containers that we were referencing before, from saucers to bowling balls, and they will take advantage of any source of water that stays stagnant.
Right, it's something as small as a bottle cap. That's enough water for these guys to breathe in.
Yep, absolutely. And one thing we want to pivot over to is really talking about how we as a district manage and control for these mosquitoes, both Aedes mosquitoes, which are invasive and are new, and also the Culex mosquitoes, which have been established here. Those are the ones that spread West Nile virus. And let's start off with Jackie, actually, because I know that we have our surveillance department and they set out traps. And I want us to kind of think about how these traps end up being used, and then how Marco then uses it and how Carolina uses it. And then we'll dial over to Aaron a little bit after to figure out, okay, once you figure all that out, what other public health partners that we have can address some other aspects of mosquito issues. So Jackie, you guys set out traps, right?
Yes. So what happens is, if we get calls, we'll get them forward to us, and then we'll go place the trap out. Usually under a bush near possibly there's any water source, and we'll leave it there overnight. And what happens overnight, we'll pick it up the next day. Let me show you. Okay. So this is a collection for one day. And this, what we do is we'll ID and we'll separate males and females. And then we'll put them in a vial, 10 to 50. And then we'll run analysis and see if they're carrying any type of virus. And then from there, that information is gathered and sent to our operations department. I also have something else. Let's see if we have enough time. We also collect birds as well. We'll get calls, and I have one under the fume hood if you want me to show you a bird. That's also some type of swabbing that we do, and we'll also run PCR tests on the bird and see if there's also any West Nile in the area.
So you're telling me that you have an actual dead bird there that you can swab right now to collect a potential sample?
Yes, if you want me to do it, I'll do that right now. I see.
Yes, I don't know about anyone else, but that sounds so cool.
Okay. So I saved it because I had it.
Know how important it is, right, Jackie? If we do see these dead birds, to notify the district, correct?
Correct. So this is a bird, and then I'll swab it right now, and this is the card that I will put the remains, the saliva that I'll collect. Let me just place this down and put a glove on.
Yeah, no problem. And as you do that, we'll also let folks know that if you're watching, this is the Bite Back tour in the City of Industry. Jackie, who represents surveillance, is going to show us how they swab a dead bird that may potentially have died from West Nile virus and how we send that into for testing. It is very important that if you do see any dead birds in your community, you can report that to westnile.ca.gov, and that will then go into a server that will allow us to track and pick up and then track these dead birds where they may appear. Now, these dead birds are definitely important for us to figure out where West Nile virus may be. And another thing to note, if you do see a dead bird, it should ideally be, I guess the best word is fresh. You can't have it to be too decomposed. Otherwise, it will not be viable. So you just put the swab down, it looks like its beak and into its throat.
Correct. So I will do this a couple times. And then this is a card that I do place the saliva. And there's two, if you can see, there's two little dots here. So it's still fresh. Place it there. You can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I, for a second one. And then sometimes the bird feet are really tough, close. So I'll use these other utensils and just open it up. But it was still fresh, so it wasn't bad. I'll go again. And then.
Aaron, I don't think this is something you had expected to see.
This is wild.
Yeah.
And fascinating. Wow.
That's it.
Wow. And then that we sent out for testing, and we'll know hopefully soon that whether that bird died from West Nile virus.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Jackie, for showing us that. And obviously all this data will then be funneled over to our operations team as well. So Marco, so things like dead birds that come up positive or West Nile virus positive mosquito samples that Jackie would collect, how does that guide you where you are?
Thanks, Jackie, and thanks, Levy. Yeah, so when we receive these trap downs or these West Nile virus positive areas, sorry if you guys hear a lot of the train.
It's okay, you're coming through pretty clearly.
Okay, I guess it's true, its name, City of Industry. But yeah, so like I said, so when we receive these trap downs or these West Nile positive areas, what we'll do is we'll actually go out into these areas and actually survey. We'll go to any existing sites, any inactive sites. We'll make sure that we treat any sources that, might have breeding, or we'll also do some pre-treatments to, let's say, possibly anticipate any future breeding. Like right now in City of Industry, there isn't a lot of residential, but there is a lot of commercial areas, industrial parks, warehouses, what else do we have? Factories. So we do have a lot of like sumps, a lot of drains, almost very similar to like private properties. A lot of these large warehouses will have, areas in the far back where they have a lot of, miscellaneous containers that they're no longer using, like old equipment, old storage containers. So a lot of the times we'll have to, speak with management and let them know, hey, you guys need to get rid of sources like this. We also have areas like right now that I'm in this flood channel that starts off in like a wash creek that leads into a wash stream that goes into the flood channel that I can kind of show you a little bit more of. Just give me a second. So this is pretty common in City of Industry when you're dealing with these sort of flood channel type systems. You have these clean areas that are concreted that lead into areas like this where it's very natural. Like you mentioned earlier with dense vegetation, that's one of our biggest issues that we come across with out in the field is normally this would be completely cleared out and then let the water percolate down and it leads into the flood channels. But as you can see, it's overgrown. You have all this stagnant water right here. You have a lot of trash. As our job, it is to not only inspect this water that's here, we'll also inspect all those miscellaneous sources inside the water to make sure that there's no breeding inside of them.
Wow, that is actually very fascinating, and it really hits home that in vector control, you're really responsible for managing the public spaces, like the flood channels, accessible areas like parks and gutters. It's a lot of work, especially when you deal with cities that have urbanized over the past couple centuries here in Southern California. So let me pivot over to Caroline and we'll dive right to Aaron. Caroline, with all this information, it's a lot to take in. How do you teach students what they can do to be part of the mosquito control or responsibility of mosquito control?
Well, we have several citizen or community science programs. One of them is Vector Inspectors, which is geared for basically K through 8. And they are tasked with keeping an eye and doing surveillance and control measures on their in the areas around their homes. So they're given kits, the same souffle cups and pipettes that our employees use, and they sample water that they find. And then once they've collected a sample, they dump the rest of the water out. And so in the process of collecting samples, they're also removing sources from around their homes. And then they send those water samples back to us. And when we're back in school and not under COVID restrictions, we often have the high school students analyze those. And so they learn how to identify mosquito larvae and how to identify other organisms that may be living in the water. And then they complete a report for that particular student, and the student gets the report back of what was found in their either organic or inorganic. And they get a strange critter key so they can look up what these things look like. And eventually we hope to have a lot of those images posted on a website. So it's definitely a work in progress. The other one is Operation Mosquito Grid, which is growth reduction and increased detection. And that is geared towards the invasive Aedes mosquitoes, which are the small container breeders that were introduced some years back. So it's really important to know where those are. So those students are given surveillance tools, including an oviposition cup, which we call the detection lure. And they then clear their yards out of all standing water and place these cups and leave them for a week. And then they take pictures of if there's, whether there's eggs there or not. They report back what they've found, and those are actually posted to our website, and so they can see what other students found. And so it's kind of a cool, it gets them involved using all the same tools that our industry does. So it's kind of a nice pivot to some of our career programs that we have for high school kids.
So Caroline, if I'm a family or I'm homeschooling students, or if I'm a teacher, what website where do I go to sign up for something this cool?
Yeah, so this is vectoreducation.org, and that allows teachers or scout leaders or homeschool parents to sign up. And then the students are sent a kit once they've filled out and enrolled for the program. And away they go. So it's real easy. It's great for in classroom, but also we had a number of kids who were doing remote learning to it. So it just gives them hands-on science, whether they're at home or in school.
Awesome. So it looks like we're teaching the students how they can also manage the sources and the mosquito issues on their personal property while we take care of the public side of things, like
and that's
marketing.
So important. Yeah. When these invasive Aedes mosquitoes showed up the first time, that was one of the things that we did, was to mobilize our students. And we got 7,000 students in the El Monte area to, canvass their yards and give us an idea of how far these mosquitoes have spread. But, now we've had to nuance that since they've spread to every city in the area. And so we also talk about, how to maintain your properties as far as plantings and just thinking about habitat, not only for the larvae, but also for the adults. So making sure that there aren't these conditions that allow the adult mosquitoes to hide out. So we definitely talk about, native plants versus, some of these tropical plantings that are sold at the local stores. And so, that's something that we also encourage.
I'm so glad you brought it up because that helps us pivot over to Erin from the Theodore Payne Foundation. And we have been, ever since we've discovered these large groups of Aedes mosquitoes, we also realized that they love properties in the city of industry that look like Jurassic Park. Dense, big leaved plants, nice and humid. They will rest there and enjoy your blood if you're outside. So Erin, I want to have you kind of talk to us about what are some alternatives, because we tell them to please get rid of all these tropical plants that don't belong here, but what can they do to replace it?
Sure. Yeah, so there's so many different California native plants that are drought tolerant. So that means that they've evolved with our climate here, which is the Mediterranean climate. So we have these long, hot, dry summers followed by these cool, wet winters. And so these plants, once they're established and have, their deep root systems, they're not going to need any additional water outside of, assuming we're not in like a severe drought year. They won't need any additional water. So you won't have any stagnant water around. But that doesn't mean, that it's all cactus or that it's all brown plants. We have tons of amazing evergreen plants. I'm going to show you right now one of my favorites. This is the Humboldt lily. You see that?
Wow.
This is a very beautiful.
This is one of my favorites too. Yeah.
Think of when you think of a California native plant. But there's just so many. Because they've evolved with this climate, they've come up with all of these incredible ways, adaptations to keep, some of them do go very dormant during the summer and go brown, but there's 7,000 native plant species and many of them stay evergreen. So with the right, plant selection, picking plants that are going to work in your area, you can really have a very lush. I can turn this camera around and just show you a little bit of the grounds here. But we're located in Sun Valley. We're on 22 acres in a canyon. And you can see it's lush and green and beautiful. And in addition to the nursery, we also teach classes. We have a hiking trail, demonstration gardens. So all kinds of ways that you can connect and learn more about these plants.
Hey, Erin, so a question on, so you clearly have shown that these California natives are quite beautiful once they are set in place and they haven't had the chance to show themselves. Is there a certain season or time of year that's better to re-landscape my yard? Let's say I have Jurassic Park in front. What time of the year can I get rid of my Jurassic Park?
So really anytime starting in the fall through the spring is good. And even if you wanted to start, putting in some plants right now, it's definitely a possibility. The summer is going to be a much more challenging time of year to put plants in the ground. And that's just because of our climate. So it's easier for them to start spreading their roots when the ground is wet. And so if you plant in the fall, right before the rain comes, they're going to have a much easier time getting established. But that said, if you're paying attention and being mindful, you can put them in, I would say you can do it right now, but you can also take this time to think about, your garden design and make plans for the fall. So summer's a really great time for planning. For a fall planting. And we also have a larger selection of plants in the fall. Oh, you guys, there's a monarch butterfly that just landed on the lily. Do you see it?
Oh yeah, there it is.
Nice.
Wow.
That does bring up actually just trigger something in my brain about biodiversity around our cities. the more non-native plants we put in, the more we bring in these invasive Aedes mosquitoes, the lower the biodiversity we're going to see over time. So it's so nice that these natives are bringing in things like the butterflies. A lot of these insects people actually care about.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and our native pollinators really could give a boost. Even if everybody just had one little patch of native plants, it would create sort of this pathway from yard to yard where these native bees and native butterflies could, thrive. And you don't have to have your whole yard done in that, but I just,
Absolutely.
you're killing multiple problems, by putting in these natives. You're reducing your water usage, you're discouraging these invasive Aedes mosquitoes by drying out your yard, and you're encouraging all these beautiful pollinators, including hummingbirds. So I think it's a win-win-win.
Absolutely. And what's it?
Oh, go ahead, Erin. I think your audio we have cut out a bit. Go ahead, Erin.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry about that. So a lot of the insects and wildlife have co-evolved with these plants over thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And so
oh, your audio cut out again. While you get
it
your
out again.
Oh, there you go. I hear you back. I hear you again.
Sorry, you guys, my internet's a little bit unstable, but yes, you'll have butterflies and bees and all kinds of really, really incredible wildlife.
And I would like to point out too, you mentioned that fall is ideal for planting natives. Fall is also a time when a lot of residents in the city of industry and all throughout Southern California start to see an increase in Aedes mosquito activity. These Aedes mosquitoes will actually start peaking and start biting really aggressively. So if you're thinking you're safe out there for Halloween or you're getting close to Thanksgiving, well, these mosquitoes are going to be out there looking for you because we also tend to be outside during those times. So these Aedes mosquitoes have learned, I guess, learned in quotation, to be out there with us. So having these California natives that Erin from the Theodore Payne Foundation mentioned would definitely reduce the amount of these adult mosquitoes flying around. Erin, what website or what resource should people look at to learn more about Theodore Payne?
Yeah, so our website is theodorepayne.org. There's tons of great information there and information about visiting us. And we also have a website that's called nativeplantgardentour.org. And that website has videos from different gardens from across LA, just to show you some examples of how, of what these gardens can look like. Because I think some people have a specific idea of what a native plant garden looks like, but you can really have anything from, like you can make a formal garden or kind of like a minimalist garden or a cottage garden. So there's just so many ways to use these to create the desired look you're going for.
And then are you all open right now or are there certain restrictions in place?
We are open. If you are coming on a Saturday, that's our busiest day. It's a good idea to make a reservation. It's totally free to do that, but it'll make sure you get a space in the parking lot. But we're open Tuesday through Saturday.
All right.
I just put the nativeplantgardentour.org site up on the chat.
Awesome.
Perfect. All right. And we'll be
So
sure
if
to
you
reference
scroll
that.
down in that, you'll get to the gardens.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Erin. We're about nearing the end of the Bite Back Tour in the City of Industry. If you're watching, you're probably watching us on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, or even on our website. You just heard from Erin, who's from the Theodore Payne Foundation, talk about the benefits or the multiple benefits of having California natives around your home, and also the plus side of having less adult mosquitoes flying around and biting you up as you're enjoying your outdoor space. Let's go ahead and round this out now to talk one last bit of information. That's repellent. So let's say, for example, you got rid of the stagnant water. Your home looks beautiful with all those California natives. But there's one thing we want you to keep in mind is that you cannot get rid of 100% of mosquitoes, especially in our cities. So there's still one last line of defense that you can take, and that's wearing repellent. let's talk a little bit about repellent myths, perhaps. Repellent myths are quite common. I guess we can just go around really quick, just two or three of them that you may have heard of. So does someone want to start out with a repellent myth they've heard before?
Is Vicks Vapor Rub repellent?
I wish. I wish Vicks Vapor Rub. We're gonna break so many hearts by saying, unfortunately, not. It's nice and mentholy. It might obscure or kind of hide a bit of your scent that you may give off, the sweat, but you cannot avoid the mosquito completely.
Another common one I've seen are the light traps that everyone always likes to have right by their door, and you always hear that zapping of what you think is a mosquito, but unfortunately, you're not really killing mosquitoes there.
Yeah, I think 99.9% of all the insects caught in those light zappers are beneficial insects like moths. And very, very little, if at all, do you have mosquitoes in there, because mosquitoes don't care about light. They don't blood feed from light. They blood feed from animals like us that breathe out CO2, and we have nice, warm, delicious blood. Any other?
Yeah, the repellent pendants, repellent bracelets. I always tell the kids in the classroom, you know, you see those commercials with the invisible shield that, you know, you put your pendant on or you clip it to your belt, and somehow you get this magic force field that repels mosquitoes. It doesn't work that way. You may protect the wrist or the area of your body where it's attached, but it does not form a force field around you. And really the best thing is to get something actually on your skin, any exposed skin, put some repellent on, because these devices, however easy it may seem, just don't completely protect you. And that's kind of the way citronella candles work too. You can light them, but if you've even got a gentle breeze, it just carries all that protective power away.
Mm-hmm. And let's do one more misconception out there.
I always think of like the stickers that they have, to carry on Carol Ann's point, that they say that these little stickers are going to repel mosquitoes with that invisible force field. And just, you know, I mean, it's cute in theory, but unfortunately it doesn't work. I've tested them myself. And yeah, they don't work as well as actually putting mosquito repellent on.
And it's important to make sure you cover all exposed skin. I actually was in a city in San Gabriel Valley, and they had a food truck out there and everything. And I put on repellent on my hands and arms. Actually, not my hands, just my arms. And I had a burger that I was eating. And I obviously didn't spray my hands with repellent because I was eating a burger. Well, next thing I knew is I was sitting there and Aedes mosquitoes landed right on my hand where it didn't have any repellent on. And was ready to take a blood meal as I was ready to take my burger meal. So make sure you repel completely by putting repellent on any exposed skin. But there are 4 ingredients that you should look for, because anytime you go shop for repellents, you're hit with like a rainbow of marketing colors and brands. What are the 4 repellents ingredients that people should be looking for?
They should be looking. Yeah, picaridin, oil of lemon eucalyptus, also known as PMD, DEET and IR3535. And the trick is to look at the front of the label. It'll tell you the active ingredient there, and it'll give you one of those 4 ingredients. And you want to have the right amount of percentage of whatever activity you're going to do. So if you're just going to go outside and for a quick walk, you know, maybe 25% works versus like, you know, this like intense 80%. Like you want that when you're going on a hike or something like that.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. This concludes our Bite Back tour in the City of Industry. We're going to just do a quick round of last minute or last words to our audience. I'll start with Pablo. Any last words for our viewers?
Just encouraging, just like Erin gave us really great information about Theodore Payne Foundation, is getting more California native plants out there. I know especially during the pandemic and lockdown, we all became proud plant parents. So get some good California native plants and prevent mosquitoes and welcome more of our natural beneficial insects into our yards.
And to add to that, Pablo, I am a proud native plant parent, and I have been for a couple of years, and they're absolutely gorgeous. I have all sorts of flowering plants. And I just put in some new sticky monkey plants and
Nice.
some spice bushes. So I'm very, very excited to see how those do. I even got out before dawn and watered my new plants. So you can plant them in the summer.
Awesome. And I guess on that note, Erin, any last words for the viewers?
Yes, thank you guys so much for having me on, and it's great to meet you all. And yeah, don't be discouraged by fall planting is great, a great time to do it, but you can definitely do it right now as well. And you know, whether you have a single pot or 10 acres, you can really you know, not only battle mosquitoes, but have a really positive impact on your local biodiversity and ecology. So yeah, and I hope to see you out here at the foundation.
Yeah, I think we need a field trip out there just to visit.
I know, come for a field trip.
So we could probably do a future bite back tour located from Theodore Payne.
Absolutely.
Cool. And then
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, and then Marco, any last words for the viewers?
Yeah, just a reminder, tip out any water sources on your property, toss them out if you don't need them. And, it's getting warmer, so we're spending a lot more time outside. So let's make sure we're wearing that repellent.
Awesome. Jackie?
Also reapply. I know a lot of times when we're outside, it's like to reapply. And yeah, you don't want to suffer more in the long run, because you may have another reaction and welt up and, end up in the hospital, and we want to avoid that.
Thank you.
Make sure you don't reapply.
I think you cut out a couple of seconds there, but I think the summary is just make sure you reapply the repellent. Caroline, any last words?
Yeah, just enjoy your summer and check out Theodore Payne, because I certainly am going to.
Awesome. And then Allie?
Hi, everyone. Just wanted to remind everyone, especially now that the kids are getting out of school, to check out and prepare for next year. Check out vectoreducation.org, and also to get the kids involved when it comes to cleaning around your house. I actually have a surprise real quick in our vehicle. Just reminding everyone to tip and toss. So like when the kids are out, get them to pick up their toys or to change out the water in their dog bowls and everything. And then always to apply repellent as well whenever you're outside in this summer.
All right. Thank you so much, Ali. And that concludes our Bite Back tour in the City of Industry. A special thanks to Erin from Theodore Payne Foundation for being one of our special guests. We look forward to having you for future Bite Back tour stops. And with that, everyone, stay healthy and stay bite free.